Hello and welcome to Right from the Kickoff with your host this week, Joe Wright, and joining me as always is my football partner in crime, William Bayliss. How you doing, Will?
I'm very well, Joe. Lots to talk about coming up to our final game of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads to talk about, but it's quite probably not what we thought we'd be talking about just before we came onto the podcast, really.
Yeah,
Um,
some big breaking news, isn't there?
some big breaking news, and when I say just breaking, it has literally just happened as we're recording this podcast. Okay, so Nuno from Wolves, the manager, is going to leave at the end of the season. I mean, every sign is pointing towards Spurs, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, surely. He's been linked with them, hasn't he? And I know Wolves haven't had the best season. They're currently 12th place, so they're pretty much mid-table. And he's done a really good job for Wolves. Obviously, he's got them promoted and then managed to finish in the top seven. After coming up, and they look like a real threat. Obviously, they're missing Jimenez after his big injury this season, but Nuno's done a really good job for Wolves, so he'll be a big miss for them. But
He's done a very good job for Wolves, but I'm gonna spin it now. Okay, so if it's looking like he's going to Spurs, I personally don't think he's a big enough name to take Spurs to where they want to be. Do you think he's the right manager to take them through, especially with the news about Kane leaving this season, potentially? Do you think he's the right manager to take them forward without Kane? And is he going to be able to push them into that next top, challenging again and maybe even some trophies, which we all know that Spurs are hankering after? I just don't see that myself. I think he's a great manager and he's done brilliantly for Wolves. I just don't think he's the right man for Spurs personally. But that's
but he will. It'll be a completely different setting for him and Spurs. He'll have a lot better. No disrespect for Wolves, but if he can get that out of the players at Wolves, he can hopefully replicate him and do even better at Tottenham as well. I do really rate him as a manager, to be fair. Um, I know when he first came up, he was doing a lot better than he is now this season, but he has had a lot of injuries. And I think the restructuring what Tottenham are going into, obviously, they've got new ground and everything. They want to have a revamp of the squad. And if Kane leaves, they'll have a big influx of cash as well. Obviously, that's all pointing like he's going to leave. If you see all his interviews, I know we spoke about this few days ago, but if if he does leave, Kane signed a 6-year contract in 2018, so he's going to be worth more than what we said. I've only just remembered that he did sign that contract, so it's a big contract.
yeah,
So that would
yeah.
ramp up his value.
The obviously after we had the podcast, we had our opinions on it, and he is going to be worth more than that because, like I say, otherwise he's going to end up staying at Spurs. You know, if you want to get him out of his contract, he's got another 3 years on his contract. I mean, realistically, if Daniel Levy wanted to, not saying he would do this, but if Daniel Levy wanted to, he could play him in the reserves for 3 years, like he could. So I think you're right. I think he's going to go for more. But going back to Nuno, I'm not saying he's a bad manager. I think he's a great manager and he's done terrifically at Wolves. But I'm just not convinced. I think he deserves a shot at a bigger club. So he's a good manager. And let's be honest, when I say Spurs are a big club, you know, do they actually deserve the title of big club? The only thing that we say that gives them the title of a big club is the money, the money that they've got, and obviously the new stadium they've got. They are pushing to be in a big, but they haven't won any trophies in the past 14 years. And the last trophy
Yeah,
they won was a League Cup. So if you're going to look at silverware and you're going to look at what they've won and what they've challenged for, realistically, you could make the argument that Leicester are a bigger club if we're going to put the two side by side.
yeah, of course. But in my opinion, I think Tottenham have nothing to lose with getting Nuno in. Like, you know what? If they sell Kane for about 150 million, which they could do, then he'll have this money to reinvest. That's what I was saying about Kane. He'll have this money to invest back into the squad. Well, you'd hope so. So
Yeah, I
I
think.
think
Go on, go on.
I think it's worth the Spurs to have a gamble because what top manager will want to go to Tottenham at this rate?
But
You know what I mean?
this is the point I was making. That's why I was agreeing with you, kind of in a roundabout way. Is actually Nuno's the type of manager that Spurs could get in at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of the best that they could get. I just think that this isn't a shot against Nuno. I think Nuno is a great manager and he's done very well for Wolves. I think it's more down to, again, the infrastructure and the way Spurs have been run over the last couple of years. It hasn't been the best, has it? So it's more against kind of what Spurs and Daniel Levy are doing rather than what Nuno's doing. I think Nuno is a great manager. I just want to put that out there. I think he deserves his shot, and good luck to him. Right, moving on, because obviously we've got quite a lot to talk about.
Lots of big news coming out this morning, isn't there?
Some big news coming out this morning, and I think the reason we want to put this into the podcast is because he's a player that's been both close to our hearts throughout his career. Obviously, starting off at Nottingham Forest from Nottingham, and then coming to Leicester and captaining Leicester, obviously to the Premier League title in 2016. Wes Morgan's announced his retirement at the age of 37. I think it's quite emotional for both of us. Yeah, because I know that a lot amongst Forest fans, there's not really much love lost there. In terms of you still do value him as a good player and everything. I think it's because, if you don't mind me saying, Will, I think actually at the time that Wes Morgan moved from Forest to Leicester, it was more because Forest needed the money.
Yeah, because they only sold him for £1 million, and he was worth more than that.
Yeah, I mean, they really needed the money because they were in some trouble debt-wise, weren't they? Obviously, that's before, your owners that are in now were in and stuff. So they needed some money. So that's realistically the only reason he came to Leicester. So there isn't, you still love him up there, don't you?
Oh yeah, well, everyone loves, because he is. I know legend gets put around, but he is a really, really top. He's a local lad. He played for Forest for 10 years. He still loves this city. I've seen him walking around town in Nottingham. Even when he was playing for Leicester, there's no love lost for Morgan. He will always be a legend. I know it's really, really funny because there's this guy in Atlanta. You know the story, Joe. Called Big Wes. Shouts out to him. But his Twitter handle is Big Wes, and when he reached a milestone, I think it's playing 300 appearances for Forest. Loads of Forest fans were congratulating the American Big Wes, thinking it was Wes Morgan. So now, since then, he's now an honorary Forest fan, the Big Wes, and it's just, oh, what a legend! I remember him scoring it has to be the best goal of his career. The late equaliser. You probably remember his show against
Notts County, wasn't it?
Yeah, I shared it on my Twitter feed today, and what a goal! I remember sitting out. I actually missed the goal because this is why we don't leave early anymore, because oh my god,
yeah, it's funny you should mention that, actually, because obviously I'm a Leicester fan because most of my family are from Leicester, as you know, but I'm actually from Nottingham. And I actually went to a Notts County game, the game after you guys played Notts County. The game after
really?
he scored the equaliser, because I've got a friend who's a massive Notts County fan. I remember them talking. They were all saying, we didn't really lose that game because obviously they went on to lose. Notts County did on penalties, didn't they, in that game?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we didn't really lose and stuff. And I just remember sitting there, obviously, as kind of a neutral fan sitting in the crowd, we're just kind of like, well, what a screamer, though, from Wes Morgan. And
what a goal.
The quality goal. And I just want to say, from a Leicester point of view, brilliant player for us, solid player, and obviously captain when we won the league title. And to be honest, there's a lot of Leicester fans that believe that we wouldn't have done it without him. I remember when he scored against Newcastle, he scored a vital goal against Southampton in the run-in towards the Premier League title. He's done a lot for Leicester as well. So, very close player to both our hearts, because he's done a lot for both clubs, hasn't he?
He really has. He's a legend of the East Midlands, isn't he?
Yeah, right. Moving on, because again, we just want to keep it short and tight. We've got some more news coming out this week, and I've been calling this basically since the day one we've been running the podcast, haven't I, Will?
You have, to be fair.
Roy Hodgson is stepping down from Crystal Palace. I mean, you don't need a crystal ball to tell that this was going to happen. I just could tell that, chatter amongst the Crystal Palace fans. But just first of all, want to talk about his managerial career. Obviously, manager for England, managed at places like Blackburn, West Brom, Fulham. Took them to a Europa League final. He's a very, very good manager. What do you think? Great manager, and he'll be sorely missed for the game, won't he? But he's going to enjoy his retirement as well.
Yeah, it really is. And what a varied. You spoke about various clubs, but he's also been the manager of Switzerland, Malmo, Udinese, UAE, Finland. Like, it's such a wide variety of teams that he's managed. Inter Milan as well on a caretaker basis. It's just crazy.
But it goes to show, doesn't it, what a quality manager he was. Obviously he didn't have the best time at some of those clubs, and obviously England, not a great time, obviously losing to Iceland. But let's not take anything away from his career in terms of management, and to take a club like saving them from relegation one season and then the next season, putting them in the Europa League place and getting them to Europa League final. That's a feat in amongst itself, isn't it? You got to remember this is a manager who will have been working with quite limited funds at a lot of these clubs. So the fact that he's been able to across his career get a lot out of these players, sustained West Brom in the Premier League, which of course I bet they wish they could have him back now. And as much as Crystal Palace fans will probably be glad to see him go because it's kind of his time to go. When he took over at Crystal Palace, they lost the first 7 games in that season, if you remember. Obviously, they had Frank de Boer in before that. He got sacked after like 4 games, and then they brought Roy Hodgson in. He then steered them to safety. So this is a manager who knows how to get it done at the highest level of the game. He might not have been challenging for titles, but in terms of teams with limited funds, he's done a great job, hasn't he?
Yeah, he really is. And 45 years in football management, like that doesn't happen by mistake. And they don't really make him like him anymore, do they? He's old school, but he also has a modern ethos, which you need for this day and age as well. Like that doesn't happen by mistake.
I think what's interesting about that, and you talk about it, you can tell that he's one of the managers, obviously the older managers of the game, obviously like say old school manager, but he's not been scared to change his style in order to make it work for the modern game. Do you know what I mean? That's why he's lasted for as long as he is. And we always say as a coach, me and you are both coaches, aren't we, by trade? You always say that you want to change the way you kind of think and feel about stuff depending on that situation. I always feel like Roy Hodgson's had the ability to do that, and that's why he's lasted in the game as long as he has, because there's no doubt that the game of football has changed in the past 20 years, never mind the past sort of 50 years, obviously with VAR, with the limited tackles you're allowed to make and all this sort of stuff. So he's done a great job, and the introduction of wing backs constantly. So yeah, he's done a great job for sure.
Yeah, what a man, and he'll be sorely missed, won't he? But yeah, that's all our big news coming out of the last few days. I'm sure there'll be more soon with England under 21. England 26-man squad for the Euros. It's going to be announced any day now, isn't it? So we'll wait and see what happens with that as well.
I think it's going to be announced next Tuesday. So
next Tuesday.
I think what we'll actually do for that is we will have it probably introduced into our next as kind of a last bit kind of into the next podcast, and obviously, and then we'll do a podcast later on around the England kind of set up and build up towards the European Championships, for sure. Right, moving on to the results. I hope you don't mind, Will, but I want to start with the Leicester-Chelsea game because I feel like...
of course, that is one of the biggest matches, isn't it?
Yeah, really? So basically what happened there, it was always going to be very difficult for Leicester. Chelsea won this 1-2-1. Always going to be very difficult having played them a couple of days prior in the FA Cup final. What did you make of this one, Will? And did you watch it? And we both kind of guessed it, didn't we? We actually we both said 2-1. I mean, I went for 2-1 Leicester, but I did say to you prior that I think it's going to be 2-1 Chelsea, didn't I? Like before,
you did, to be fair.
Wasn't surprised really.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I think it was a combination of things. One, Leicester were probably a bit hungover from the FA Cup win. I know they're professionals, but they still might be. And Chelsea wanted revenge, especially after seeing, I forgot what Leicester player it was. He disrespected
Marty, yeah.
Marty disrespected the.
He flicked the obviously the Chelsea emblem out in the changing rooms of celebration, which I do want to condemn as a club fan. I don't think that was the right thing to do, but I also have to say that Chelsea turning up in tracksuits to the FA Cup final wasn't exactly the way you want to sort of spend the occasion. But yeah, it was from Marty. It wasn't very professional, and I want to say that as a Leicester fan, I wasn't exactly pleased with that. To be fair.
Yeah, it was really disrespectful. But going back to the game, I thought it was going to be deja vu with 2 disallowed Chelsea goals, wasn't it? And let's be real, Chelsea should have had a penalty as well. Werner did get kicked in the box, which I don't know how VAR missed as well.
I mean, I don't really know. I don't really know what VAR's there for. I mean, yeah, it's funny you should say that because obviously for me, it wasn't done on purpose. It wasn't done on purpose. But at the end of the day, Werner's got between him and the ball, so it's a foul. You know, I try and be as impartial as I can be, and it was a definite foul, definite penalty. Whereas actually, I thought the penalty they did get in the end, it might have been the referee kind of making up for it because it was a very soft penalty. It's one of those penalties that if it's given, it's not going to get overturned, but you can see it not being given as well and not getting overturned. So the penalty they actually got was kind of 50-50, but yeah, the Tielemans one was a definite penalty for sure. So it did kind of even itself out throughout the game, but that's not really how you want it to be. And again, we look at VAR, and luckily Chelsea got the win for the Chelsea fans. But let's be honest, start to finish, apart from the last 15 minutes where Leicester woke up and Iheanacho came on, Chelsea were all over Leicester in this one and deserved the win.
Yeah, and I feel so sorry for Werner because he had a goal disallowed. He should have had a penalty. I thought he played really well in that match, if I'm being honest. And
yeah, I mean,
I know he hasn't been in the best form, but he's still Chelsea's top goal scorer, and he was unlucky in that game. And I think it will come for him.
Yeah, he's not an out-and-out striker for me, unfortunately. I don't think he is, and I think that's the problem. I think
I don't agree with that.
I do. I mean, you look at obviously I did because I made the statements too. but obviously you look at Werner. He reminds me of kind of a Pulisic kind of player. You look at the way he takes his chances, and it's just he always seems to snatch at them a little bit. And I think maybe that's down to his form. So I might be proven wrong next season. But he does seem to snatch at them. Even the goal that got disallowed for VAR that went in, it was a mistimed header. Like it just seems he gets. What I have to say about him though is his positioning for Chelsea players and stuff is phenomenal. Like his position, that's why he gets the goals that he does get, is because his positioning is very, very good. But I just don't. Nothing about him screams natural striker to me. And that's the one thing I would say. I think he offers a lot to the game. I just don't think he's a natural striker.
Well, you say that, but his record at RB Leipzig, which are a top German club, by the way, he scored 78 goals in 127 appearances, and that doesn't happen if you're not a natural goal scorer. I think it's all down to confidence. It's all down to confidence. It will come for him.
Yeah, but
I'm saying this now.
I agree to a certain extent, but again, I think the difference in the two leagues is, and I'm not saying the German league's better, and I'm not saying the English league's better. What I'm saying is I think the two leagues are different. You are going to get a little bit more time and space in the top flight in Germany just because of the way the game's played. Whereas I think the kind of Premier League style, he struggled because of the time and space. But again, his positioning's great. I'm not knocking him as a player. I just don't think he's a natural born striker for me from what I've seen this season. But again, I'm putting an asterisk next to this. I'm happily proven wrong. I think he is a great player and he could quite easily become a natural striker for sure.
Yeah. Let's see what happens then next season.
Yeah, let's move on then. Will, if you don't mind getting the results up, because my phone's playing up a little bit in that kind of area. So if you don't mind getting
of course. So the first match on the Tuesday was Man United Fulham. Now this match finished 1-1. Joe, did you watch it?
I did watch it. It was a great goal by Cavani, but the question is, was it offside? Was it
That's the
offside?
thing.
Did you see
They
the
gave
goal?
the assist to Bruno Fernandes, which put him onside, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but if they gave the assist to Bruno Fernandes, he was offside. Because the whole point is if Bruno Fernandes touches the ball, it's offside. The ball's played through by one of the wing backs, and if Bruno Fernandes touches the ball when he goes for it, it's offside. It's a great goal, great finish, but it was and anyway, the goal stood anyway, and then of course Fulham came back into this. It was a bit of a lackluster performance from Man U, kind of knowing they've already secured second place. It wasn't a great performance, was it?
No, but they had more than enough chances to put the game away. Let's be real. They had so many chances.
They did, but that, for me that doesn't kind of say much. You've got to take the chances, and I don't think it's the greatest prep going into Europa League final for sure. Hopefully they can get a bit of confidence from the last game of the season. Anyway, next game, Will.
Southampton Leeds. Now this match finished 2-0 Leeds.
Yeah, it was a very good Patrick Bamford performance. Just want to point out to you, Will, and what you think of this. Bamford said after the game there was an incident where he gets touched by the keeper and doesn't go down, stays on his feet. A penalty's not given, and he says, "Well, you're encouraging strikers to dive then, because if the keeper doesn't touch him, he just rolls it into an empty net." What do you make of that? Do you think that players? I don't know. Everyone's like, "Oh, players shouldn't dive," but at the end of the day, if Bamford goes down, he gets a penalty. So, but he didn't. He was honest, stayed on his feet, and he got a bit annoyed.
See, that's the thing. It's a you lose if you do, and you lose if you don't. You know what I mean? Like if he stayed on his feet like he did, he didn't get the penalty. But if he'd went down, he would have got a penalty. But people were like, "Oh, why didn't you stay on your feet?" Like either or, he's going to get people complaining at him. And I think you are right, and it's not right. Something has to change. I don't know what it is, but it has to change.
I think at the end of the day, right, if you're going to give, if that happens anywhere else on the pitch, obviously I know we're talking about the goalkeeper here, but if that happens anywhere else on the pitch, right, it's a foul. It is a foul. I think the referee more often than not blows up for that and gives a free kick. So why in the box is it not a foul? Do you know what I mean? I think that's where we need to draw the line. If it's a foul anywhere else on the pitch, it should be a foul in the box.
100%. You're not wrong there.
And it does annoy me because honest players like Bamford staying up on their feet, and then you get other players that dive around. I won't mention anybody, but we've got a lot of them in the Premier League that just like to kind of flop around. We need to kind of cut it out a little bit because the game is going to a non-contact sport a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And we need to kind of define that a little bit. But again, I'm not the one to make these decisions. All right, next game.
And the final game for the Tuesday was Brighton Man City. Now, what a game this was, Joe. What a game. So, Man City went 1-0 up, as you'd expect, through good again in the second minute. And then Cancelo gets sent off for denying a goal-scoring opportunity. Did you think it was a red card, Joe?
Yeah, I did. Just because you look at the slow-mo of it, Cancelo knows what he's doing when he makes that decision. He's all at sea with it. He realises he's messed up. And I think, to be honest with you, I think it's just a natural reaction to them be like, "Oh, I've made a mistake here. I've got to bring him down." But, it was a red card for me. He wasn't, I think it was Welbeck, wasn't it? He wasn't in full control of the ball, but I still think he would have gone on to have a shot on goal for sure. And Cancelo, it was quite poor defending. He just got caught out, I think, by the flight of the ball, and he got himself into trouble and obviously got himself sent off.
Yeah, so there's no arguing with that. And then nothing happened for us in the first half, really. But then in the 48th minute, Phil Foden, I mean, what a goal this was, yeah. I mean, unbelievable strength to stay on his feet, and what a finish as well. I think one thing from Foden, which he would say, is that sometimes he gets a lot of chances because he's so technically good. He doesn't always put them away, but I think this is coming with a bit of age and a bit more maturity of taking your chances, isn't it?
I think what you've got to realise, Will, there as well, and I completely agree with what you're saying. I think he's 20 years old.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I love him. I love him.
You forget how young he is. I mean, I don't. What I'm saying here, right? I'm not comparing the two players in their achievements and what they could become or whatever. But I'm gonna make a big statement here, Will. And I don't know.
You're saying it, are you, Joe? I know what's coming.
He is the closest we've got in terms of his ability and the type of player he is to what could be like a Messi, right?
I took a while for that to come out. I know what you mean.
Because I realise what an idiotic statement it sounds. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that he's going to be as good as Messi. I'm just saying in terms of his technical ability and the type of football he plays, he's just a joy to watch, isn't he? Skipping past players, as if they're not there. He can pass, he can score goals. This kid is going to be phenomenal. He will be.
He really is unbelievable.
Regardless of whether he's going to be as good as Messi, even if he's half the player Messi is, we've got a hell of a player, haven't we?
Yeah, and he has to be starting in the Euros, surely.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of our best players, I think. I mean, this season he's 20 years old. I mean, I was.
It's crazy. Does that blow your mind?
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of him at the start of the season, was I? But because obviously we've had conversations in terms of, I'm not sure, everybody's raving about him, but the more and more I watched him, and obviously watched a lot of football games this season, the more and more I watched him, you just thought, this kid is phenomenal.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
His touch, his composure, and yeah, I mean, Man City have got a hell of a player.
They really do.
But yeah,
like,
I think what I liked about his goal as well is he was giving the Brighton fans some jip, and I think that's what you love about fans being back in the stadiums.
Wasn't it? So we haven't even touched upon this yet. It was so great to have fans back in the stadiums. Like the atmosphere and everything. The players, you could tell it meant more to the players, didn't it? Unless you're Tottenham, of course, because putting them charging them over £60 for a match to put them right in the heavens, so high up. It was awful, and Tottenham had an awful game as well. But going back to a Brighton match, Brighton then scored 3 goals and really, really well worked goals. To be fair, I know Man City were down to 10 men, but these were really, really well taken goals, weren't they, Joe?
Yeah, really well taken goals, and anytime you beat Man City, I don't care if they're down to 10 men or 9 men. It's Man City, and we know the ability they've got. So any win you get against Man City is a great win. And again, Graham Potter just showing why I think he should be the man that Spurs are going for. Honestly, I do. I think the style of football Brighton play, I'd want that. I've even said to you, if Brendan Rodgers was to go to Spurs, Graham Potter's the guy that I want taking over the Leicester job. I mean,
yeah,
he's just got this Brighton play, and let's be honest, Brighton haven't got technically massively great players, have they? The football he's got this season, and they should be further up the league. They really should. They really should, because the football and the chances they've created has been really good this season.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Let's move on to Wednesday's fixtures then, shall we? So we'll rattle through these and then we'll get to the last 4, which are kind of most important. So Everton Wolves. Everton won this one 1-0. Would you say that's a fair result, Joe?
Yeah, I would. I think Everton obviously dusted themselves off from a really poor performance against Sheffield United, and they got a good result, and they played a lot better for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So the next game is Newcastle Sheffield United. Newcastle won this 1-0.
Joe Willock again.
Joe Willock. Honestly, he's in my fantasy football team for the last game of the season, because I think he's. How many has he scored now? He's scored 6 7 in the last 7, hasn't he?
6. He's the youngest kid to ever do so in terms of consecutive games. And let's not forget about 3 of those are coming off the bench as well.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well, also youngster Joe. I know it's a hot topic for us, but do you think he's got a bright future ahead of him?
Yeah, I think he has. I don't think he's got a future at Arsenal. I don't think he'll be utilised there. I think for him, it would do him better if he. I know Arteta's recently come out as kind of late as today and said that he's not going anywhere, but I don't think Arsenal are going to use him in the way that he wants to be used. I think he would do better coming to kind of a mid-table-ish. I mean, I know Arsenal are a mid-table club, but I mean in terms of what they're wanting to aspire to. I think I would like to see him go back to Newcastle, to be honest, but I don't think it's going to happen.
But only time will tell. A lot of things, what can change before I think a lot of things will happen before the start of the Euros because Spurs will want to get it out of the way, won't they? Particularly in the Premier League. Then going to a Tottenham-Aston Villa match. Now, Tottenham actually went 1-0 up.
Own goal of the season alert, by the way.
I'm laughing because I'm just thinking about the own goals. I'm sorry, Tottenham fans. I'm sorry, guess what? Like, this was a hell of a own goal. Honestly, Reguilon, what a finish as well. But you have to say, if you're in the box, coaches say this all the time, make a clean contact if you clear it. So you don't just swipe at it, make a clean clearance. And he just didn't do that. And he just went into a top corner and what a finish.
No, I saw it and laughed. Laughed my head off. It was great.
And then that man Watkins again, who's fighting at the bit to get into the England squad, which
I think
for next week.
He gets in for me with 26-man squad.
It's tough. I know they have a lot of top strikers because would he get ahead? Would he get in ahead of Bamford, or would you take both?
I think Watkins, and I mean this is probably going to upset a lot of Leeds fans, but I think Watkins just gets in ahead of Bamford.
You think so?
But I mean, Danny Ings isn't injured anymore as well, is he? So
he's got that experience, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah. So it's just interesting because these players that we're talking about, obviously, they will be fringe players because obviously Harry Kane's going to play the main striker role anyway. But obviously we need that impact off the bench, and if the worst comes to the worst and Harry Kane gets injured, because we know he can be a little bit injury prone at times, you need the players to come off the bench and make the impact and be able to lead the line as well as possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That's a conversation for a few weeks, isn't it, Joe, before the Euros? So, yeah, it finished 2-1 to Villa, and it looked like Harry Kane was waving good. I know we've already touched on Harry Kane already, but it looked like he was waving goodbye. I know Ryan Mason did deny that this morning, but it did look like he was saying goodbye to the fans after.
Just on that, I know that obviously we've got to hurry up and stuff, but just on that, Ryan Mason's been put in a very, very difficult position because he's not going to come out and say Harry Kane's leaving. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the head coach next year of Spurs. We know it's well documented that they're good friends. You know what I mean? He's been given a job to do for these last 8 or 9 games. He's not going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, Harry Kane, he's off." Do you know what I mean? He's not going to say that when he's employed by Spurs. He's not going to say that.
Yeah, and actions speak louder than words at the end of the day. If he's waving goodbye, then it's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think what was quite interesting was obviously we did the podcast when the news broke, and that day Spurs were trying to keep a wrap on it, weren't they? Quite obviously. Daniel Levy came out and said that I had no kind of prior knowledge to this and stuff. But everything that Harry Kane's kind of said from then until now has been, I'm leaving and I want to go to Man City.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll watch his space. And I think they said they want to happen before the Euros as well. So it's going to happen fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next game. Crystal Palace, Arsenal. Now, it was 1-1 for most of it. And then in added time at the end of it, Arsenal scored 2 quick-fire goals to make it 3-1. Is that a fair result in Roy Hodgson's last home game at Palace?
I thought Palace did enough to get the draw, to be honest, but it's a 90-minute match with plus added time, so you got to keep switched on, and Palace didn't do that. But Arsenal now with an outside chance of Europa League, unbelievably,
or Europa Conference League,
or Europa Conference, which a lot of their fans have already said they don't want. I mean, I don't really know much about this Europa Conference League. You want to just what is that actually? Do we know, or is that?
It's a similar format to the others. It's just with lower ranked sides, really.
Right. Okay. So
and I think there's other countries which wouldn't normally get into it, like teams in Liechtenstein and stuff like that. You know what
So
I mean?
yeah,
Like,
it's not something you really want to be in, is it? Especially if you're Arsenal.
no, but it's a way to get into Europa League, isn't it, for the season after if you win it? So, and
Yeah,
it's another trophy at the end of the day.
yeah, but a club like Arsenal, I mean, no.
No,
You know.
you're right. But a team like West Ham, I mean, you're a
Yeah,
bit
maybe,
disappointed, but you still take it.
but West Ham have done enough to get into Europa League this season for me, for sure.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens. Anyway, speaking of which, we'll talk about the West Ham match now. It's finished 3-1 West Ham, and it secured them at least some form of European action next season. Was it a fair result?
Yeah, it was. I mean, West Ham were kind of in control of this game. I mean, obviously West Brom had the moment, but yeah, West Ham overall deserved the result, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And moving on to the final game, Liverpool 3, Burnley 0. And now this scoreline could be really, really important because I think it will come down to goal difference at the end of the day. Currently, Liverpool have a 4-goal advantage over Leicester. They're on equal points for their last top 4 spot. And I think that late goal for Liverpool and that late goal against Man United is going to pay dividends for them, don't you think?
I'm making a prediction now, and I know I'm a Leicester fan and I know I'm biased, but I'm making a prediction now that it will be Liverpool 3rd, Leicester 4th, Chelsea 5th.
What?
Yeah,
no.
I think what you're forgetting, Will, is they've got to go to Aston Villa, who have had a great season. They've got to go to Aston Villa with Villa having fans in. I think Villa will get at least a draw, and I think Leicester will beat Spurs on the final day because we've got to. So I think Chelsea will miss out, and potentially
that's massive. So hold that thought, Joe, because let's go through our predictions. We're going to do a quick 5 predictions because I know we're running a bit over today. For the final time this season, let's go for it, Joe. So all these games are going to be played at 4 o'clock on the 23rd of May, which is a Sunday. So Arsenal-Brighton, I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal.
I'm going to go 2-1 Brighton.
Oh, big. Now this is a big one again. Aston Villa-Chelsea, I'm going to go 2-2, you know, just like you say, I want to add up, make it spicy.
But I don't think there is anything to make it spicy. I genuinely think Chelsea are going to drop points. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
That would be big. Fulham Newcastle. What are you going for, Joe?
Newcastle 2-0.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 Newcastle. Leeds West Brom. I'm going to go end with a bang for Leeds. 4-2 Leeds.
I'm going to go 3-0 Leeds.
Now this is another massive one as well. Leicester Tottenham. Now again, this is a big game as well. If Harry Kane turns up, because Harry Kane's equal top goal scorer with Mo Salah, so he'll want to win that golden boot, won't he? So
I'm not sure. I think his head's his head somewhere else.
Having said that, he wants to win trophies and things, so I'm gonna go 3-2 Leicester with Kane scoring 2 to make sure Kane gets that golden boot.
Okay, so I'm gonna go 3-1 Leicester on this one.
Kane to score for Tottenham.
Yeah, Kane to score for Tottenham. Why not?
Why not? Another big one as well. Liverpool Crystal Palace. Now this is where Liverpool lost the Premier League some years ago when they were 3-0 up. We called it Crystal 11. Crystal Palace scored 3 late goals, didn't they? So what are you going for? Is history going to repeat itself?
No, I think Liverpool has kind of shown their class in the last couple of games, and they tore apart Burnley. I can't see anything else but Liverpool wins. I'm going to go 2-0 Liverpool.
Yeah. Man City Everton. I'm going to go.
What are you going for the Liverpool game? You didn't.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool. Why not?
Yeah.
Man City Everton. I'm going to go 3-1 Man City.
Yeah, nice one. I'm gonna go 2-1 Everton. Why not?
Oh, that'd be interesting. Sheffield United Burnley. I'm gonna go 2-1 Burnley.
I'm gonna go 1-1.
Oh, get some more points of the last point for Sheffield United before we get the drop. West Ham Southampton. I think West Ham. Well, they want to win this, and I think they will. It'll be good to get them into the Europa. So I'm going to go 2-0 West Ham.
I'm going to go 2-0 West Ham as well. I'm going to agree with you on that one.
First time we agree. Wolves, Manchester United. Now this is Nuno's last game, as we know. But I think Man United are going to be too much. So I'm going to go 2-1 Man U.
And I'm also going to agree with you on that one. That one was in my head, 2-1 Man U.
Brilliant, John. We have another episode next week, so we'll wait and see what happens, and we'll talk about the results then and what it means for final standings in the table.
Yeah, we're going to be tying the kind of league season up, what it's going to be and stuff. And also we are going to go through mine and Will's teams of the season. I think actually looking at what you've got for a kind of a blueprint, so it's not your definite team, is it? But I think me and you are going to agree on it quite a bit, I think, with the players that we've got involved. But I think there are a lot of standout players this season, and that's why there is a lot of a kind of agreeing within the teams, I think. There are a few differences, of course.
Yeah, as always. So, but make sure you follow us on Twitter. Sorry, not on Twitter. We're not on there yet. Facebook, Instagram, and make sure you click the like button under the video and subscribe to us because we need some more subscribers, don't we, Joe?
Definitely, and let's not forget we got the big man Peter Crouch coming on for the last.
Oh, what a guy!
Last Premier League episode of the season.
That'll really hit the heights for us, won't it, Joe?
All right, wrapping up there, guys. Right, see you in a bit, Will, and see you next week.
See you later.
See you later.